Greetings everyone, here we are with another fresh unboxing and overview video. What I mean by fresh, sometimes people get upset when I say, when I do one of these. When I say fresh is I mean I did no research. The box is still wrapped tight, so this is entirely just me opening a box and looking at the contents inside it and making quick assessments about the system. Sometimes when you get a new system, if it's a well-designed system, the mechanics of the system are immediately apparent to the individual. If it's a poorly designed system, it requires the person to repeatedly having to read back and forth between multiple different sections, and eventually over time they might figure out most of the system. And this is a good example of badly designed systems, or say like White Wolf systems, which oftentimes, particularly their Exalted series, where you have to literally hunt through the entire book to figure out where the mechanics are, because oftentimes mechanics are buried inside of large blocks of text about the lore or about various things. So you end up reading like 3 paragraphs to get basically a half a paragraph of worth of information that relates to the mechanics of the game. Where exceedingly well-designed systems, you can basically just skim over really quickly in a snap, and you are like, oh my goodness, this is basically how the system works. A good example is go see my Transformers beginner box unboxing for a system that I find that is actually exceedingly well designed. So let's go into the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms Core Rules box from Mödiphiüs. It's a tabletop battles in the world of Tamriel. This system is stated as is not specifically a TTRPG, but it's also not exclusively, say, a war game or exclusively a skirmish game. It's actually this interesting point of existence, from what I understand from quickly reading the blurbs about it, is that it allows you to play between single solo sessions. So if you want to just play Elder Scrolls Skyrim-esque adventure solo, this is a system that supposedly covers that. If you want to play co-op, like a role-playing game, like Dungeons and Dragons, you can do that in this system, supposedly. If you want to play more skirmish style, you supposedly should be able to do that in this system. If you want to be a more war game like play session, it supposedly supports that. There is quite a bit that's included in this system. I will go ahead and read what's on the back of the box in my best voice. It is the time of the Dragonborn. Battle rages across the forests, plains, and mountains of Skyrim as Imperials and Stormcloaks fight for supremacy in ancient barrows. The restless dead rise from their sleep. Skeletons and fearsome Draugr jealously guard their treasures from bands of delving adventures. The Elder Scrolls Call to Arms is an adventure wargame set in the world of Tamriel. Gather your heroes and venture into the Draugr-haunted tombs and ruins, searching for treasure and glory, or fight the civil war as the Stormcloaks and the Imperials battle for the future of Skyrim. This core rule set contains everything you need for exciting solo and cooperative delves, or 2-player battles with AI adversaries hindering both players. This is backed up by extensive online content as Mödiphiüs.com/Elder Scrolls, allowing you to take your game even further and conquer Skyrim for your faction. Beginning your adventures in Tamriel with this essential boxed set containing the full rules of Elder Scrolls Call to Arms, plus dice, cards, and tokens. Contents: 5 hero cards, 13 followers and adversary cards, 6 faction reference cards, more than 200 quests, events, traps, items, and spell cards, 1 white skull dice, 3 accuracy dice, 3 black, 3 red, and 3 yellow effect dice, 2 die cut counter sheets, 104 page complete core rulebook, quests book with 12 missions, escape from Helgen quick start guide, miniatures available separately. Approximate time of play is 60 to 120 minutes. 1 and 2 plus player mode. Recommended age is 14 plus. So as you can see on the tin, which is not a tin, it's a box, it is claiming to be a solo gaming adventure, so you can play it entirely by yourself against a AI, a rule set that simulates interactions with the player, as well as you and a friend or more friends can play in various adventures going into deep dungeons, much like classic Dungeons and Dragons, or you can play skirmish style, fighting over who's going to win, the Stormcloaks or the Imperials. So it feels like it's a fairly hefty box. By the way, there is a lot of official minis for the system from Mödiphiüs. So if you want to buy minis for the system, they do supply them as well. As well as they have a whole bunch of adventure books and expansions to the system. If people really want more of this stuff, I will do more of this stuff in the future. But do more Elder Scrolls Call to Arms stuff. However, they are going to have to say so in the comments, saying, yeah, I want to see more of this stuff. If you are just interested in just the system itself, there are a few YouTubers here on YouTube that do cover this system, but most of the information on YouTube about this system is largely on Mödiphiüs's official page, Mödiphiüs Entertainment. So we go ahead and open the box. It's untreated cardboard, so if it's used as a dice tray or people start putting their drinks near it, the moisture gets on the inside, it's going to damage it. I'm going to go ahead and put this back here. The all black box doesn't really jump out very well against just that light upward. So it's less directly on. What we got in the box. First and foremost, we have this really thin stapled book, Escape from Helgen. This probably replicates the classic opening quest of escaping from Helgen in Elder Scrolls Skyrim. I wonder how the archer build does in this game. But basically, it gives you a quick little introduction. There's a table of contents and credits right here, so they don't waste any space right off the bat. However, they do some basic, they have some decent choices in coloring from the background as well as text and font. The spacing on the lettering and between paragraphs is very well done. Sometimes I will get people who complain that I obsess about shit like that. But as a person who has mild dyslexia and dyscalculia, if you start cramming your letters a little too tight together, they kind of just swap places or just get smashed together. And it gets really tiring for the eye to read. There are people who have a lazy eye or various other disabilities or other issues that impede their ability to quickly, easily read a book. Mine are mostly just along the lines of the fact that if it's really tight, if there's a lot of text and it's really tight together, I mentally lose track of where I am repeatedly if I stop for whatever reason, seeing because I have ADHD. And sometimes if the lettering is close enough together, my brain kind of starts jumbling some of the words together. So I kind of need that spacing between some of the words just so my brain can just flow along. If you watch my channel and watch my videos, it is very clear that I have ADHD and dyslexia, because sometimes I will just misread a word if I'm trying to read it fast or something. But anyways, back to this whole thing. I'll get my karambit back out because I lost the scary knife. I think I lost it in my car or my truck. But anyways, There's a nice example here of the cards in which they use in the system, as well as the dice, which is very nice. They go over for upgrade slots and various other important things. So there's rather interesting mechanic as far as this adventure, as the system is concerned, that there is a easy upgrade mechanic that's tied into it, and they quickly explain it at the beginning of this. They explain various concepts quickly throughout this book, such as movement, sprinting, and searching, and then they'll quickly move on to the exploration part of this adventure. They start you out in this area here, and they move you on through there. Some key, various important information, mechanics here, and then we target practice, rules engagement section of the adventure. It looks to be as one of those situations where they designed this adventure in a manner that they teach you the basic mechanics as you go along. So they basically walk you through various concepts, and then they get you actually into the steps, and they move you through that, and it's quickly done. It appears to be an extremely simple one, as such as just simply getting out of a small area. So here we go. Here's the next book that's in the pile. It is the Quests book. It is a slightly red tint, as you can see here. It's another one of those two staple Saddlebound owned books. Yet again, they don't waste any space, really. They immediately have the contents and the credits on the inside of the cover. Setting forth, scenarios, pre-game sequence. So they walk you through the beginning steps, choosing parties, determining party priority, choose a scenario format, and then they walk you through the various important components of the adventure. As you can see here, they have various amounts of wealth in various objects or tables here relating to treasure tokens and stuff like that. Other quests, deploy the parties, scenarios and special rules, and so forth. Victory conditions, darkness, objectives, civilians, breaking dawn, and so forth. Battle mode scenarios. So they have basically, hey, if you want to play more like a war game, this is your deployment zones. Much like Warhammer, there will be sections blocked out on the map where you set all your figures on. And then there's a neutral zone between them. And then there's the bisecting center line, or on occasions targets or objectives on the map itself. So if you're familiar with Warhammer, 40K, Age of Sigmar, or Fantasy Battles, or even the skirmish games that Games Workshop puts out, you are going to immediately recognize a lot of these systems and setups. It's actually rather nice. It seems to be largely focused on the various deployment zones, as well as objective points and other stuff. On the back of the book, you see that there's a bunch of miniatures. There's various victory conditions that you can achieve here, and how many points you gain for them, depending on the scenario. So, Duel of the Ages, Annihilation, The Art of Destruction, Lead by Example, Stalwart Forces, and Pillage the Dead for this scenario. Sovereign Guard Calls, Blood and the Snow campaign. So you go from the skirmish campaigns, skirmish games in the front here, to an actual regular campaign where they walk you through the various important positions, such as the Imperials or the Stormcloaks, and the various sequences of the events. So you have Scenario 1, in which your forces meet up against each other, and they battle out, depending on whether you're the Stormcloaks or the Imperials. And it walks you through the various components of the each scenario, such as Scenario 2, Scenario 3, Scenario 4, and so forth. Then you have delve modes scenarios, which is more like classic, appears to be more in the classic D&D style, where you basically send a party of adventurers, either playing solo or with friends, into a crypt or something, or a dungeon or a region to procure a specific object or complete a specific thing, such as get the treasure inside of a mountain range or in a cavern or whatever. So we have identified 3 different modes in this system. We have the skirmish modes in the front. We got a campaign mode, which basically replicates a series of wars in the classic wargaming fashion. And then in the back, we have actually scenarios for adventuring, like similar to D&D and other such stuff. And then the introduction to the Break Falls Barrow adventure, and some nice pictures of some minis here. And then we have what is called the core rulebook here. Oops, that slipped down. Grab that Call of Cthulhu deck and use that as a break. And then we have the core rulebook, which is a soft cover book, as you can see. It is glue backed, so the only with little bundles of pages. The only issue with something like this book is that in the case of the staple books, the staples go bad or they start rusting. They fall apart and become brittle, and then the pages can become loose, which case you can just simply staple them back together. In the case of a glue-bound book, over time glue in the spine dries out and then it starts falling apart, and then you have sections of pages that fall out of it. This is largely dependent on the temperature and climate in which you live in, or other such things that are not entirely within your realm of control. Some of these books will last 50 years maybe, and then sometimes some people have these types of books where they basically have them for 5 or 10 years, and then a bundle of pages falls out. It depends on the quality of the glue in the spine and the climate and the amount of usage the person has. But yet again, as you can see here, it walks you over the basic structures of the system. Backing up here, yet again, you have the credits on the inside cover page. You have the contents. You have some minis down here in the corner. You have some information to contact Mödiphiüs if you want more stuff. You have an introduction here. You have the size range for various enemies, as well as their size of their bases in which they're mounted on. And then the basic information such as the party, the campaign, character cards, height, level, and space size rules. So if you kind of want to make these custom, you can. Here, hero character cards overview, because this system is a card-based system that walks you through the character cards denoting different characteristics on your character, as well as your upgrades that you apply to your character, as well as your equipment that you have applied. And then another card here. You have information for name and title, factions, symbols, races, path, perks, keywords, special abilities, reserves, height, level, gold septims, attributes, skills, upgrade slots, which is number 13, which is right here. You got upgrade slots down in the bottom, so you can have a total of 3 upgrades apparently. And then followers cards, which have attacks, armor, and defense, and so forth. Other cards for the system. So I have to back up and show. This is your arrangement on the cards. This actually looks fairly somewhat familiar to a system called Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3rd Edition, or even something I've seen in a few board games as well. So you have upgrade slots, and then you have your quick slots on the side of the card here, as well as various attributes here. You have other cards here. Other components such as the tokens, which you can see back here. Skill tests for playing the system. So when you come into a conflict, you can roll your skill tests. Skill dice results and effect dice icons. So it appears to be a custom dice system. You know how I feel about those. That's never a amazing, warm, fuzzy feeling. You got strength skills, endurance skills, intelligence skills, agility skills, and wisdom skills. Essentially very much like Dungeons and Dragons, except for you don't have charisma as a skill or ability family. You got rules on line for sight on your targets, which makes perfect sense. My guesstimation is that it will use a similar system of measurement, such as Warhammer, where you measure out inches or meters for your figures to move across the battlefield. And what attacks they can perform probably depend on where you are in your distance. You have activation phase, replenish reserves, action list, recovery, the event phase. Then we have explanations on the actions, such as move boosts, jumping and climbing, difficult terrain, shoot, withdraw, attack, range rules on your thing, skill tests, damage, dual shot, cover rules, shooting in engaged models, special ammunition, melee attacks, other melee attacks, dual wielding rules, unarmed attacks. So if you punch someone or grab someone and hit someone with another someone, that's a thing. Melee attack boosts, unusual engagements, such as the high ground. Blocking, two-handed block, so you can block with two hands, which is actually viable in the actual game of Skyrim. If you use shields regularly and you train very hard with them, you can actually get to a point where you're actually capable of fighting people using just shields. Ready, command, hold, aid, hide, and so forth. So generally you have a lot of pages with a lot of text on it. You got chapter 4, which is damage, which talks about health, applying damage, overkill, damaging incapacitated models, injured models, and so forth, as well as equipment with the armor. You see that there is a good amount of symbols utilized in the system, which is not a great thing, as that oftentimes requires people to mentally try to associate symbols with a specific die or something like that, or a mechanic. And then if you try to do a conversion system where you convert the symbols back to numbers, because sometimes companies do that, you then have to read the book and then mentally remember that that is a 6 or a 1 or a 5 or 4, and then go from there. So you have another card right here. Yet again, you got a morale phase for chapter 6. Chapter 7 is status effects, such as incapacitated, shaken, staggered, which is a very short list of condition effects, so that's nice. You got a section on spells that your character can use. I'm quite sure that it's not terribly hard to figure that out. Targeting types such as curse, environmental, melee attack, aura, and bless, as well as personal and ranged attack. Then you have runes as well. Spell types like bound weapon, blast radius information, summons, wards, and more. Dragon shouts. Rules on terrain. Large obstacles, small obstacles, deadly terrain effects. A section on adversaries. This is probably going to be more of a bestiary kind of thing going. some battle terrain. So if you've played Elder Scrolls Skyrim, and you've played Warhammer 40k or Age of Sigmar or good grief, I think it's I can't. My brain is like Starbound or Icebound or something like that, which is a skirmish game. I actually got it in the other room. I could go and get that. One moment, please. Frostgrave. I was thinking of Frostgrave. And then there's also Stargrave as well. So anyways, you get the general gist in this book. There's all kinds of fun stuff. You got special runes, keywords. You got your different spell effects. Yet again, all of it is put into symbols and types of dice. Races of Tamriel, which is interesting. You know, you go through like 90% of the book, and then you get to the very back, and you discover that, oh, this is the basic information on the various races of Tamriel, which is chapter 13. And then you have gathering the party information, player factions, party composition information, upgrade system, equipment rules, tokens index, so it explains all the tokens and the pages in which that information can be found on, which is a good thing if you're going to go ahead and use a lot of symbols and tokens. Right back here in Appendix B is the icons index, which gives you the information where to find all the information on each type of icon. Personally, I feel that is too many types of icons that people have to learn and memorize. I don't even think Warhammer 40k or Age of Sigmar or even Fantasy Battles has half that many icons or keywords you have to learn and memorize. So this is a serious situation where this system might actually suffer simply just because very few people will have the cognitive capacity to correctly connect the icons correctly. I was going to try to work as many C's into that as possible. Quick references for various things, such as skill dice results, effect dice results, and status and effects. There is apparently more statuses and effects than in how the previous chapter made it out to be, but there is not that overly complicated in the category of status and effects. Roughly about as many status and effects as a little bit more than Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, but slightly less than Pathfinder 2nd edition. So, it's a nice book. It appears to be well written, good spacing, good color. It does have me kind of concerned with all the icons and symbols that people have to memorize, as that will bog down the learning process of the system. We have 2 sheets of tokens. The symbols are different on front and back, so if you see this one here on the edge, and I flip it over, down's a different one. That's a treasure chest. And then we have different set of tokens here. So these are obviously way markers for where locations are and stuff like that. And these are where castles or fortifications are. I played a bit of Elder Scrolls Skyrim, the video game, multiple times. So I should have a good grasp on the symbols. But even then, there are some symbols here I don't recognize. There are some symbols for various factions and other things. Skull, person. Okay, we have the card. Oops. We got some baggies. That is actually really nice that they include baggies to put your cards in or your other stuff on. Event cards are these mini cards. As you can see here. Read that. It's a little mini deck. And then we have another 2 mini decks, another event deck, and a spells deck, which looks like it might actually be consistent of multiple different types of cards in here. Looks like there's also equipment in here in this deck as well. So I think this purple section is the spells cards, and that might be something else. And then we have the equipment on the back side. That looks fairly uniform, so that might be nothing but events. Then we have adversary cards, which I cannot see any pictures of on them. I think it might actually be 2 decks sandwiched face to face, so all the character card information is on the inside. And oh, these are actually the hero cards. And these are the hero cards. They're extra large. So, as you see here, we have your various faction information and your overall information here. Your slots for your upgrades. Your various attributes for your character. And your quick action slots, as well as your basic information. And then on the backside, we have Hadbar here with his basic information, as well as just other stuff. And we have the dice, which are quite colorful. We have a D20, looks to be a D20 here with a bunch of symbols on it. We have various black, red, yellow, and green dice. Different types of dice are applied to different things, such as, if I remember correctly, success, failure, events, random chance, etc. So that's a bit of something. And then, of course, we have the bane of efficiency and waste in material. The filler cardboard section in the back of the box, which I hardly ever am entirely amused with, as this is just more material that's filling the box that's wasting space. I do understand in the case of they wanted to have a naturally organized section here where you can put all the stuff inside and not have it just floating around inside the box. But personally, I don't like seeing just a pocket created with a bunch of cardboard. And as you can see here, we have this untreated in box bottom. Personally, I'd much rather not have a filler piece of cardboard in the bottom of the box. Feels to be more of a waste of material, having such a thing. I'm going to put the tokens back, give you a close look at the tokens. If you back up in the video, you can actually go back all the way to where I showed you the icons for the tokens and what they're listed as. If anyone wants to, they can put in the timestamp for where that shows up in the video. Otherwise, at some point, I will get around to might do it as well. Between everything else, it overflows the box ever so slightly. I got a feeling if you got rid of that piece of cardboard in the very bottom of the box, that filler chunk, the books would actually sit inside the box more properly. Other than that, yeah. My personal feeling is that I do like the fact that they went about the whole, we can play skirmish games with this, we can do war games with this, we can do a tabletop role-playing game-esque adventure board game feel with this system. Yeah, let's go with all of that. And let's see if we can make that successful. I personally feel that overall in this system, as it is, it feels as if it's the war the skirmish portion of the game is done very well as far as I can tell. I have not played it. As you can see, I just opened up the box fresh and clean. And the war game portion is done fairly well. The only thing that's probably going to hang people up is all the different colored dice and symbols, as that creates unnecessary bog in time for people to process, oh, I got X many skulls or stars or daggers and stuff like that. And it results in this fashion. Where in the case of Warhammer or many other war games or skirmish games, it is simply a set of numbers. And you just remember, like, oh, 6s and 5s are good. 1s and 2s are bads. 3s and 4s might be good or bad depending on my stats of my character. You know, the character that's using the spell or the attack. If I need to roll better than a 4 and up in war game or skirmish team's term, I have to roll at least a 4, 5, or 6 or better. If it's a 3 up, I need to at least roll a 3 and better, and so forth. With the symbols, that complicates things, and it might also make it easier because you might just simply associate a specific symbol as a success symbol and a certain set of symbols as fail symbols, and you go from there, and you're not trying to memorize the exact number. However, that might actually result in the characters becoming more flat and less dynamic as opposed to the number system. So we got that issue. Now, as far as the treasure hunting scenario, dungeon crawly, semi tabletop role playing game in style, or the board game flavor of tabletop role playing game style third option, that seems like it's a really interesting concept. It might be somewhere in the realm of what I heard of Hero Quest is, or how Dungeon, the fantasy board game, is like. I have yet to open that box. That might actually be my my 750th subscriber for unboxing right there. But anyways, we got Dungeon, and we got other games where it is a board game, but it replicates tabletop role-playing game flavor in it. So there you go. Overall, it's really hard to say to put a grade on the mechanics of the system. However, it feels like it is a good solid 3.75 star or feel to the organization of it, and they are very nice about having nice big indexes for the symbols and the keywords and conditions and stuff like that in the system. So other than the fact that they went the crazy route of custom dice and a bunch of symbols on the dice, they did a very good job putting everything together. I don't even know if my standard critique of saying I would like a game master screen for this system kind of thing would help this system. It might be useful to have like a player cheat sheet card or a player mat where they can lay it out, and all the core rules for the system is laid out on, and just the bare bones of the system is laid out on a little mat. So when people need to reference something quickly, they can quickly look at this little mat that they set on a table or something like that, or a sheet, so they can quickly reference the quick basic rules and order of operations and just flow from there. That might be a notable improvement to the system. However, I'm hard to say because this is a territory in which I have very low experience in, but particularly with the skirmish games. I only really own Frostgrave 2nd edition and Stargrave 1st edition books, and I've read them through a few times and watched a bunch of videos and thought about how the system relates to war games, and I have dabbled a little bit into Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, as well as a little bit into Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar in the past, here and there. But I don't have concrete experience and level of understanding in those systems. I just know the basic frameworks and how to play them based upon like 8th edition or 9th edition, or in the case of Age of Sigmar, 2nd and 3rd edition. So there you go. So if you have any experience with playing the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms tabletop battles in the World of Tamriel game in any of the 3 modes, please drop that in the comment section below and tell me what you think of the system. It is I keep looking away because autism and ADHD issue here, but if you have experience with the system, feel free to drop it in the comments. I am interested in what your thoughts are of the system, if you have played it or have looked into it before. It'd be very much appreciated. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you have a delightful day, a nice night, a wonderful week, and a magnificent month, and see you next time. Ciao.